Thank you. I hope it's good afternoon. Yeah, I thank you for the warm welcome and the humble share this presentation. As the Wakaika said, I'm presenting this on my behalf on the team of three researchers. Could you wave up please again? Yeah, thank you very much. Our talk is about voices of students with disability on assessment accommodation in higher education. We teamed up, myself and the Rajabu Shafii and Mzambili, to do this kind of research because I didn't know that if we are doing some advocacy in this area, but when I joined the training here for the past 2 days, I realized that maybe this kind of research could be advocacy in the area of disability. So I hope you are going to join me in that area. Now, I'll share with you what is assessment accommodation because to extent it could be a new term to most of us, but the presentation will go as follows. Now, for those people who cannot see me, so I forgot to introduce myself. I'm not tall, I'm short. I'm not thin, I'm not thin, okay. But also, I'm just senior counselor, so that's what I'm doing. Now, assessment accommodation, I said I have to define this so that you can say it together, is an intentional modification of the examination process to make the exam more accessible to students with disability. So this process does not mean watering the examination or lowering the quality. You keep the same standard, but up to the level of people with the disability. Now, assessment accommodation is increasingly becoming a topic discussion because we know in most schools and universities we have people with disabilities and they have to access exams. How many of you have been doing several exams at the different levels of education for people with disability? Have you experienced several exams? Were you accommodated in those exams? Please, who can give us a justification on when you were satisfying the accommodation and when you were not satisfying the accommodation when you are doing the exam? I'd like to get a witness from. Okay, I'll come back to you. Please, would you just briefly, half a second, half a minute.
Yes, good afternoon. Yeah, I was satisfied when I was doing one of my, I'm Rajabu Shafii from the University of Dar, Salaam, and I was satisfied with the accommodation when all principles of the examination, including the additional time, was observed when I was doing my last examination for my undergraduate. But I was not also satisfied with the accommodation during the examination when also I experienced, when I was in first year at the University of Dar es Salaam, doing one of the questions called on critical thinking, when there was the graphics, and the graphics were not even translated or even made easier for me to understand. And also, there was also the examination started late and no compensation which was made, and that led me to get the seal over it. So that is the thing I was not satisfied.
Thank you. And maybe the other could briefly share what is it a positive or negative experience? Please share briefly.
On my side, my name is Yumna Mangaonga from UAUZA Zanzibar. And on my side is when I was taking my bachelor degree, there was this examination which was psychology course, and the question paper, an A4 paper size, contained 30 multiple choice questions. Imagine an A4 paper containing 30 multiple answer questions.
So the font size was not friendly.
Very tiny, and I was so tired. My back was hurting. After I finished that exam, I went to the examination office and explained it, I was very angry because I was always speaking of the same thing. But the moment when they saw my anger and I was serious about it, the next day, the next exam, they came up with a huge to me, it was as if they were exaggerating, but it was, yes, this is what I want. Thank you.
So thank you very much for sharing the experience. So this gives the relevance of this topic. So we have the positive and negative experience in the story. Now, so assessment accommodation, people with a disability, they need to be accommodated in assessment. And this is also part of the global goals, goal number 4, that we need to provide equitable, inclusive assessment for all. And in Tanzania, we are part of this agenda. We have developed several policies. And the first one is the Nation's Planning for Inclusive Education. And in the second one, we have 2 of them, one for 2009-2017, and one for 2018 to 2021. All of these, they call for to enhance equitable quality education for people with disabilities. Now, assessment accommodations for students with disability promotes equity and inclusion, as we have just witnessed. And this is all from the literature, but if not practiced well, assessment could be a source of marginalization or a source of discrimination for disabled students. So we have been talking about these issues of equalism. Most examiners, when they prepare the exam, they are thinking of people without disability. So assessment, and the first, like the one who I've shared, the examiner prepared a graph. So that graph, the assumption was that anyone can see that graph. So when we talk about assessment accommodation, you have challenged such kind of practices. Now, this study, we believe in the assessment for inclusion. We can read this literature from Niemann. And in this kind of thinking, we believe that assessment should be involving and concern people with disabilities. And you have to involve them from the first day, not during the examination time. So we came up with the 3 questions. And the first one was, what are the existing assessment accommodations for students with disabilities at the universities? What perception do students with disabilities have about the existing assessment accommodations? And what are the challenges and how they could be addressed? So I welcome Mr. Shafii to briefly tell us, how did we do this? And then I'll come back to share with you the key findings and some conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As you have been introduced by Dr. Kyaruzi, I am Rajabu Shafii, and for those who cannot see me, I am quite tall, a bit, thin, and wearing glasses. So our project went through a mixed research. We used a mixed research approach where we combined both quantitative and qualitative, where we used questionnaire, and in a questionnaire we had 49 students with disability, and these are coming from different disabilities. We were not focusing on one type of disability. We just focused on multiple disabilities. We also did focus group discussion. We had 5 focus discussion with different groups of students with disability, ranging from low vision to physical disability. So we also did some interview with staff from special needs department. And why we did this interview with the staff? Because they are the ones who are handling these students with disability, and in most cases, in the case of assessment accommodations, they are the ones who do this kind of accommodation, ranging from preparing braille, preparing these large fronts for those with low vision. That's why we involved them. Also, the study area was one of the oldest university. We decided to take this oldest university in Tanzania because it is the one with, it started offering the special or inclusive education since 1978. That's why it is one of the oldest, and we had a belief that we can have enough experience from this university. Also, we adapted questionnaires, and for the sake of, because we are speaking of assessment accommodation, and these questionnaires were to be accommodated also because we have people with different disabilities. So we decided to use Braille to accommodate those students with disability, particularly who cannot see. They are using Braille. We also use different font size to accommodate those with low vision. We did also an interview for those who did not master sign language. We used to have some written interview. So the participant we had, as we have seen, we are having participants of different kind of disability, and this kind of participant has an implication. We see also the kind of enrollment in higher education depending on the types of disability. We have come to see that people or students with multiple disability, the enrollment is quite few in number compared to those with one disability. Also, in terms of gender and degree programs, we had 25 males and 24 females, and also we had students from different programs ranging from bed science, bed arts, and other programs. But we can see most of the students with disabilities are taking art subjects compared to science subjects. So this is what we can see in our data. Now let me hand over to Dr. Kyaruzi to finish up with the findings and the discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Barton, and I hope the claps were at the hand. Yeah, thank you. What did you find there? What are the existing assessment accommodations? We found various types of assessment accommodation. One of them is that there are special rules. So at this university, there are special rules for people with disability to do their exams. So this was the first accommodation that was in place. The second type of accommodation, the extended time. So during the examination, the extended time, the preferential seating, we noted a special room venue where they even have the mattress. So people who can do the exam, they can even get the time to break if needs be. So there's also land print, testing small groups, reading the allowed. So there's some people or some students are given a reader to read for them during the exam. Using assistive technology, some are using computers to write the exam. Sign language interpreters, they are there to assist them for directions. And also, to some extent, we also find the breaks during testing. Some students are allowed to break during the test if needing arise. Now, what are the perceptions? Basically, what we found is students were positive about the existing accommodation. They say that this accommodation promotes accessibility of the exam room. For example, have a quotation here, it reads, it reduces the disturbance because we are aware of our venues which are near and accessible. This was a student with physical disability. And another one said, we are given special rooms, so it reduces disturbance in wastage of time looking for venue. And another one said, at the same time, that font says help us to read easily. This is a low vision. But also another said it promotes performance and it creates conducive examination environment. I can see the facilitators cooking. Let me wind up. Now, what are the barriers? There's nothing goes without barriers. In this area, we have students saying that negative perception from instructors. So as they can read from this quotation, a sentence was saying that you can explain your challenge to the instructor that I'm not feeling good. And teachers respond that you have to take advantage of your disability to avoid the exams. I suggest, this student was suggesting that assessment accommodation training should be provided to instructors. And some invigilators think that there is no need for time extension for students with low vision after giving them that print exam. Invigilators need to understand that students need enough time to read the normal print, because the students can have 5 pages that is student without special needs, but if you enlarge that 5 pages, you can have up to 20 pages. So just imagine a student reading 20 pages, so he or she needs more time. This was a staff with special needs. Now, another barrier was sitting for a long time. You know, a university exam takes 3 hours. 3 hours. Then 3 hours means if you have 2 exams, how many hours? 6 hours. Now, in each hour, you're given 15 minutes. So 15 minutes for 3 hours, 55, and then if you have 2 exams, you have 90 hours, 90 minutes more. So if you sit for 36 hours plus 90 minutes, it becomes too much for these people. This student was saying, I did the exam, I was given the accommodation, but it was not favorable. It was an assessment accommodation, but it became a burden to me at the end. Now the test format, some of the test formats that multiple choice, matching item was not favorable to them. And lastly, in terms of conclusion, these findings indicate that students, of course, they were assessment accommodation, and most of them, they are low track, such as using play. I don't say it's bad, but we think students should be given the assistive technologies to move to the other direction. And also, lastly, nevertheless, improvements are needed to make sure that the test format are friendly. Also to reduce the frequency of exam, like sitting for 6-7 hours in the same day, that could also be too much. And you're also providing knowledge on teachers who think that these students don't need the assessment accommodation. So at the end, we say that to realize the potential of assessment for inclusion, education should be provided to a wide audience, especially instructors, availing high-tech assistive technologies to students with disabilities to promote their independence, as the other scholars say, like Godani. Now, we thank you very much. Thank you for tolerating me.